Hello everyone and welcome to a special spooky new episode of the StudioMEcast. As you know, we are doing our special series with the horror Sci-fi Pittsburgh 48-hour film project, which is going to have its best of and awards night screening on the 29th of October. 13 original films here in Pittsburgh. You gotta check it out. Get your tickets at the link in, you guessed it, the description. And today I'm going to be interviewing another one of the teams that's going to be represented there at that screening. We have the Weary Travelers, and starting here we have Daniel James and Lauren Marie, and their film is Vesper. Now, I have to say, I was a little worried watching a bunch of the films, but with your film, I finally was relieved to see Davo was in fact appearing at this screening.
That's
It's not a Pittsburgh Film Festival without Davo, so we're good. He's a
close call,
a pillar of our community.
That's
so,
right.
Very good. But every team does have something in common, which is they have to use the same line of dialogue. I learned this secret long ago. They have to use an adhesive bandage. And they also had to have Sean or Shonda Taker, had to be a skater. But the wild card for everybody is their genres. You pulled 2 genres Friday. Tell me how that went, what you pulled, what you went with.
Right. You want to take this one?
Yeah, we pulled for horror, we pulled gothic horror. And for sci-fi, we pulled Lost World. But we ended up going with gothic horror because we had when we were building the story and we were crafting the story, it just fit in perfectly with that genre.
Absolutely. I feel like that's a genre that is a bit more of a curveball, I think, for compared to some of the other ones. Like there's some genres that you, I guess, have a lot more flexibility with, like a psychological horror. That could take place anywhere, anytime and all that, and you could, it's obviously a legitimate genre, but there's, different genres have their own parameters to them, I guess,
right,
or direction that they can take. And I thought it was really cool that you took gothic horror. So you get your genres. Friday evening, how does writing go?
It went really well. It went super smooth.
It's fast.
Amber, our lead actress, and Daniel took the lead on the bulk of the writing.
Yeah, we go straight home. We went home. We were all at the launch as a team, and which is cool because that's something as some of our 48-hour veteran team members never do. They never go to the launch. So we all went as a team, and then Amber was staying with us for the weekend. We fly home. It's like a 45-minute drive. Get home, sit down at the desk. Okay, gothic horror. So that's a genre that I watch. It's a genre that I genuinely like, and a lot of people don't know what that subgenre really is, and if you Google search it, you're going to see a lot of movies, contemporary films that that you've watched, that you might even like, that are considered gothic horror.
Why don't you, can you give us a definition for gothic horror?
I can give you some examples.
Yeah, do that.
Like The Crow is gothic horror.
It's about like the atmosphere. It has to be like sort of a overbearing,
bleak,
desolate atmosphere.
It's kind of also like how noir films have a lot to do with the style.
That's right. Style of the
yeah.
aesthetic is specific in one of the genre placements. Totally.
Absolutely. And so the writing's going swimmingly, it sounds. Did you? And so were you all pretty unified on which genre to go with, or was there some talk about that?
Good question. So Lauren actually wanted to go with like more of the wild card genre, which was
Lost World.
She was fighting for it.
So shocking to do something like that. I don't know why, but I thought like of the 2 choices, that would be kind of like the more surprising one to pull off. But as we got into it and we realized, the required line and the characters and all that stuff, it fit better with the story we were crafting for the gothic horror. So there was a little bit of a push and pull, but we ended up everybody was.
There was some debate as we're at the desk, which subgenre do we go with? But I just felt like in terms of a filmmaker, because Lauren and I are full-time filmmakers. We produce independent films pretty much full-time, and I wanted to sort of, in a sense, as somebody who doesn't do this very often, the 48s, I wanted to do something that I knew I felt a confidence in. So I was like, well, gothic horror is a genre that I watch and enjoy. I feel like based on our inexperience to do this challenge, I think that it felt safer for me. And she was willing to take the risk. But I sort of was like, listen, I have an idea that fits right into the pocket of this genre, you know, and that it's tangible and practical that we can do in 2 days. Whereas the other one, like Lost World, I would love to do a story in that universe, but that takes some serious like ingenuity and planning to yeah. So.
All right, so you eventually got to Gothic Horror.
We did. We
as
settled
a
on it.
team. And when did you have your script? Like when would you? I mean, maybe you're making changes as you go, but like when would you say the writing process was effectively chaptered?
11:30 p.m.
Yeah.
That night. So we were given the rules by 7 p.m. and we went home and we had it written, ready to shoot, like a shooting script at 11:30.
Nice, excellent. So when did you get your first take?
Right. So back to the concept that like we are career-based filmmakers. So we're full-time videographers. That's what we do as a team. And also we produce independent films year-round. And a lot of what it means to be a producer, I feel like, is having a plan and a schedule. Now, once again, this is my inexperience as a 48-hour filmmaker, right? Because it's different. The rules are different. The dynamic is different. How you approach it is different. And I didn't understand the nuance. I don't have the experience of knowing like where you can lose time and what process is easier. So what I did was I talked to my team leader, Derek Edgerton, who will be here for the award ceremony on Sunday, but he's one of our Buffalo crew that travels up to Pittsburgh to do the 48s in the city. And so I sat down, Derek, Amber, Amelia, and David, and Lauren, who are our principal team. We had 6 people. And I said, I'd like to break this up into like a structured shoot the way I would do any of my client projects that we're hired or commissioned to do. We keep a schedule. So I broke it up into, okay, well, let's not do what everybody else does and start shooting that night. It didn't resonate with me. It didn't feel like the way I approach things with a structure. Starting that night didn't make sense. And we didn't actually write specifically. I didn't write any night shots for the sake of planning to have this film done in time. I said, let's not write any night shots that are going to keep us up all night tonight, but are also going to run us late into Saturday evening and possibly into Sunday morning so that we can make our editing schedule. So I structured everything like this. I said, okay, we're going to be done writing by midnight. We'll get a good night's rest, and then we'll all meet up at my house for like a 10 a.m. call time Saturday. And so the crew had to pick up some props. Once we had a script, we knew what we needed prop-wise. So we had Derek and Amelia pick up some things and meet us at my house. I think it was 10 a.m. And we went pictures up, started shooting by 10:30 in the morning, Saturday.
Okay, that's good.
To keep a schedule.
So you had a couple different locations. You had your interiors. You had when you're walking on the street, you know. Were those locations relatively close to each other? Did you have a bit of a drive?
Good story. So I do really want to talk about Davo a lot.
Okay.
Because we love Davo. He's a personal friend of mine, longtime friend of mine, first friend I ever made in Pittsburgh when I moved to the city. So I had originally planned that there's a category, I think it's called Best Use of Pittsburgh,
Yep.
right? So I said, okay, Gothic horror, you got to have churches. You know, that's one of the aesthetic anchors I feel like that people sort of associate in that genre. So I wanted to take the whole crew to Pittsburgh, to the city, pay for parking in a garage somewhere, and do all of Amber's exteriors during the day, all in the first half of the day, and go down to the city. And Dave O was like, Dan, I've been doing this a long time. You're going to burn too much time going all the way to the city, finding parking, fighting, you know, unpaid extras and getting what you need guerrilla style. Do everything that you need for the film where you live in McDonald, Pennsylvania. So we live right past Robinson, Oakdale, out by the airport, where McDonald is a small little industrial town. It's got a lot of like beautiful sort of churches. We have train tracks. We have the Montour Trail. So right where I live in McDonald was walking distance to all of the exteriors that we used for Amber's scenes. So all we had to do was walk across the street. And that really did save us a lot of time. And in retrospect, if we would have gone to the city of Pittsburgh, I don't think we would have made my schedule that I set for ourselves.
I really enjoyed the look of the town that the story takes place in, because even with some of like your high-flying drone shots and all that, you have the churches, but the color of the buildings, was there any post-production manipulation of that, or is that like, because we have a lot of the same like roof tones and walls. It has this sort of unified color palette through a lot of those shots. Was any of that poster? Is that just how the town is?
That's McDonald.
Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. I think your opening shot, and there's like this mist coming over the hills. in
The
the
fog. I
distance.
went out at 8:30 in the
I
morning.
was like, that's cool.
By myself
That's
before the crew got
really
there.
cool. Yeah, I love that.
I'm a
Mother
big fan in
nature.
my films is using the sun. For me in all of my films, whether it's like client work that I'm hired to do or our own independent films, I feel like the sun is like this character in all my movies because it gives so much texture and life, and it has like its own presence, and it's just pretty to look at. So I said, let's do this theme where I go out first thing in the morning with the drone and get the sunrise. And I intentionally plan to shoot the sunrise from one direction, shoot the town from one direction, to get that sort of sunrise and that texture that plays from the sun as it streaks through the buildings. And then you'll notice later in the film, there is some other exteriors that show a passage of time and now the sun's setting on the other side of town. And I then deliberately shot with the direction of the sun that way so that we could see that it was now the end of the day. So I was intentional about using the times of day and getting that sort of like foggy, sort of like morning look.
Wonderful. So, as full-time filmmakers, are you both part of the same production company then? Is that The Weary Travelers, or is The Weary Travelers the name that you chose for the 48?
Good question.
Yeah.
You want this one or you want me to take this?
Go ahead.
No,
that's
no,
all right.
hang on. It's my show. You answer that.
There is a story behind
Well,
our team name.
Weary Travelers is our team name. We have our own production company, The Moment Imaging. But the story behind the Weary Travelers name is we were trying to come up with a team name for everybody, and we kind of got stuck in this. I mean, you tell it better. It was your
Yeah.
It was your
my
decision.
idea. It was my idea.
Well, sorry, did you say in there if what's the name of your production company?
The Moment Imaging.
The
Moment Imaging.
Ooh, I like that.
That's our company. We run together
Mm-hmm.
as a team.
Nice, excellent. All right, so Daniel, the Weary Traveler, is
Right.
then, all right, give
Funny
us the
story. So Derek is technically our team leader, and he did want to be here today. He just couldn't come up from Buffalo because he's coming up Sunday for the award ceremony.
Oh well, you know what? Hey, that is more important. So we
Yeah.
look forward to seeing you at the screening. So and best of luck. Break a leg, have fun storming the castle, etc.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes.
Funny story. So Derek looked to me for leadership because he and I are friends. We've been friends for 11 years and we've done a lot of films together. And so Derek really trusted Lauren and I with a lot of like the decision making and leadership just as filmmakers.
Mm-hmm.
But Derek is more of like the veteran in terms of doing the 48s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he says, Dan, what do you want to use for a name? Well, I was thinking about it, and what a lot of teams do is they just use the title of their production company. So in a sense, like we have two different sort of like brands that we go by. The Moment Imaging is our creative service that we offer, and then Tragic Hero Productions is my personal film studio where all of the independent films that we make as like artists goes under Tragic Hero, and the Moment Imaging is our company that you can hire us to work for you under. But I didn't want to do that. Like a lot of teams are just the name of their studio, which I get. But since Derek and Amber and Amelia were from Buffalo, and me, Lauren and I and Dave O were Pittsburgh locals, I actually used to live in Buffalo. That's how I met Amber and Derek. That's how we became friends years ago. And so I was thinking like, well, we need to come up with a name that's appropriate to us as a team. I didn't want to just like say, hey, we're the Moment Imaging. And like, Derek and Amelia and Amber are not. So I was like, let's do something special and unique. So I was thinking, okay, well, what symbolizes our team? Well, we're from different areas locally, and they're traveling to Pittsburgh to do this film. I'm not from Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania. I've lived all over the country, and so I travel a lot. And Amber has this might be something you can explain better, but Amber has this little project of hers, this little side business where she makes, what does she make?
She like taxidermies animals, and she gets their bones and she turns their bones into art, basically.
Little skeleton
Wait,
jewelry.
did they ever do stuff at the Pittsburgh Renaissance Festival?
Not yet, I don't
Not
think.
yet, but might be similar. Yeah.
That idea, right? She makes little creations, jewelry and things like that out of bones. And her name for that is Weary Travelers. And so I was making a joke to Derek because he and Amber are good friends too. And I was like, wouldn't that be funny? We'll just call ourselves the Weary Travelers because you guys are traveling from Buffalo and I'm not Pittsburgh local, really. And he's like, I don't hate it. And I was like, well, I was joking. It was a play on Amber's thing, and I was joking. But I was like, listen, Derek, you're the team leader. Think about it over the weekend. Let me know what you come to. But that was just my suggestion as a joke. So he hits me up on the Monday, and he's like, we're going with Weary Travelers. It's on the website. And I was like, dude, I was kidding, but it really works. That's awesome.
Funny. You throw something out, and I was like, I'm like, wait, hang on. Do I want that?
Yeah. I was like, I was mostly kidding, but it kind of works.
No,
so that's the origin of our team. I wanted something that was like unique to us and not just my company name.
The Weary Travelers. Tragic hero. It's it's fun to have names that have a story in them in some way as well. It adds an interesting tone to it. So all right, so Saturday start filming around 10:30 in the morning.
That's right.
Not a bad time to start. And I've heard some teams. I think there was one team that said they start at 10. Some of them start at 2.
Sure,
it's like wild. But you did the early morning stuff, right? But what was the first scene that you shot with a character?
Other than the drone shot to start out the film, the first scene was Amber on a skateboard.
Yeah,
it was the first scene of the movie.
We shot in
Check
sequence.
that box immediately.
Yeah,
I think
just
in
get
a
it
sense,
out of the way.
we actually shot in sequence to the film.
Yeah, just
From start to finish, everything was in
cool.
linear order.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because it kind of takes place over the course of a day, and since we were so intentional about where the sun was placed throughout the day, we kind of had to shoot in sequence.
That's very cool that you got to do that and you incorporated that into everything that was going on. So now something that I'd like to say about just the teams in general, those films I've seen, and obviously, the horror genre for this 48 is letting everybody know to kind of be prepared for this. A lot of the makeup for the teams has been quite nice to see. So how was your makeup department set up? How did you do that? Did you have one person applying things to people individually, or was it?
So Amber did her own makeup. For the most part, we kind of all took care of our own. Each actor took care of themselves. But for the final scene with the blood,
effects.
with the effects, that was all me.
And the teeth. She did the teeth on everybody and the blood. Yeah.
Lots of fun. Excellent.
It was great. Yeah.
Wonderful. So when did you wrap?
Good question. Once again, keeping to a schedule. I'm so proud of how my years in working in the film and television industry sort of trained me to keep a schedule. I wanted to wrap by 9:30, and we wrapped at 9:32.
Congratulations.
In the evening. We stayed on schedule.
Wonderful. And now, while doing this, when did you start editing?
10.
10
p.m.
10 p.m.?
You
Like immediately after we wrapped, everybody cleaned the blood off, and then we just went straight into the editing room.
All right.
We were able to split the work completely. So
50-50, which we do professionally too.
Yeah.
Good. So hang on. How does that look? Is that like you're each taking different scenes?
Yes.
Or okay.
Yeah.
Or different aspects of the edit.
Yeah.
So like one of you might do a rough cut and then another one does the
color.
I'm giving you way too many answers.
It's good.
How'd you do it?
Yeah.
We shared it 50-50.
We shared it. So he took most of the more establishing scenes,
Exteriors,
the
I did all those.
all that stuff, and I took the dialogue scenes, and then organized it, trimmed it, cut it all
she
together.
syncs the audio, does a rough cut of all the different angles. Like we do a lot of coverage, which I shouldn't have done, but I like triangle coverage in my dialogue scenes, and it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, so we got that all placed together, and then we copied the project files back and forth, and ended up teaming up for the final bit of it, which was I was just over his shoulder.
So you're working on two different machines?
Yeah,
then,
we have
while
two
you're
computers
editing?
in our editing office.
Wonderful. And so, all right, you're passing things back and forth with that. When did you get? Actually, hang on. Before I get to that back end question, how long was your script? How many pages?
It was like
was it too long? Is my question, or were you pretty good?
You gotta tell him the story.
Almost right on the money.
Tell him the story about how we made runtime.
Yeah, so our script was like 7-8 pages.
Yeah,
and it was a lot of dialogue. So, we were all stressed out about whether or not it was going to work, and we ended up being 40 seconds.
40 seconds
over.
Our principal cut was within 40 seconds of the mandatory runtime.
Okay. Yeah.
So her and I sat together as a team and we watched the movie.
This was at 5 o'clock before it was due
Sunday.
on Sunday. we sat together and we just were like, we were shortening by frames. Every
Shave.
single
Shots.
shot.
It's like the scene in Goodfellas where the guy's got the razor on the garlic. How can we
How
get away
close
with
can we get this?
this? Will add
We
up.
had it down to the second.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like we used the legal bumpers and we used the legal credit time. And one thing I like to tell about this post-production process is that not being experienced 48, like this is, I like to say it's almost technically my first, and it's definitely Lauren's first. It's David's done 100 of them, Amber's done 100 of them, Derek's done 100 of them.
Has David ever worked with D-Post?
I don't think so.
Okay, never mind then. Keep going.
So I didn't realize as an editor, like I'm a little nitpicky, I'm a little OCD, like in terms of like color and sound, and I'll do micro adjustments forever if somebody will let me. I didn't realize how much time can disappear in post on a 48. I didn't get it. I didn't know. I didn't know what to expect because I have a workflow, but I didn't know how to consolidate and summarize that workflow. I'm just very winded with like how I make micro adjustments. If she hadn't stayed up very, very late, cutting and sequencing all the dialogue, Saturday night into Sunday morning, and Amber and I did all the exteriors together, like her and I sat side by side and discerned what to do for all the exteriors. Then by the time Sunday afternoon came around, when her and I were making micro adjustments to the runtime to get that 40 seconds shaved off, we didn't sacrifice any dialogue. All the
No
40
content.
seconds came out from shots that I held like a longer exterior, some transitions.
Okay.
You know,
Good. Yeah.
sometimes an edit needs to breathe.
Absolutely.
I cut all the breathing room out.
Sometimes having a shot go on longer affects the overall pacing. So
Yes,
that
it does.
The film itself feels shorter.
Absolutely.
It's like my philosophy is there's no such thing as a film that's too long. There's just bad pacing.
Yes.
It's like when I watch The Lord of the Rings, when I watch the theatrical versions, they feel like they have a longer runtime than the extended editions
Yeah.
to me. And that's because of the pacing. Even though I think I think Peter Jackson said it. I don't know if he said he prefers the theatrical versions because he said the extended edition is not the director's cut. That's a different thing. He's like the director's cut is the theatrical version. He's like I do like that. He's like the extended is where we got to extend it.
Right.
But anyway, we can talk about pacing forever. But yeah, that's a cool thing. So that's nice that you didn't have to sacrifice any dialogue because I've talked to some teams who, they were like, yeah, we were like 11 minutes long. And there's a couple of teams that are going to be releasing extended versions of their 48s, and they're like, oh, there's a couple other things that we just want to clean up, I guess. Mark Rupert, who is the 48 founder guy, runs the whole dang show. Mark Rupert, I had him on a previous episode, and he was talking about the first time they ever did the 48. They didn't have a time limit for how long your film could be.
Oh, I see.
And the one that won was like 16 minutes long or something. And they're like, we gotta shave this down. And it was like, I think it was in 2001. So they're like, that team was shooting like taped tape on mini DV tape and stuff. It was ridiculous.
That's wild.
And then they had the screening Monday. Like, so it's like, turn your films in Sunday, and then we're going to screen them Monday night. But then they had to like transfer stuff to tapes. And there was one time where like almost didn't get done on time for that. And he's like, we're not doing that ever again. Crazy stuff. So, but anyway, sorry. Got off there for a moment. Don't worry. We're fine. Okay.
So we shaved off the 40
you
seconds.
Shaved off 40 seconds. Thanks for bringing
And
me
I
back
was
there.
really surprised
Yeah.
that the script we wrote was within 40 seconds of the runtime, and all I had to do was cut off a couple shots that were too long.
It didn't feel rushed at all, I would also say. Like especially the dialogue scene, like Davo's scene, you know, it takes the time it needs to.
It breathes.
Yeah.
I feel like as an editor, your scenes need to breathe a little bit. And what we cut out from the 48 version to make runtime, it does feel like some of the scenes are a little more snappy in terms of how fast you get through the content. That was just because we shaved down shots that sort of let the edit breathe a little bit. And, PJ allows an extended cut or an altered cut or a more polished cut after the award ceremony when the festival's over. And so we have that version where it's like the scenes breathe a little bit more. We added that 40 seconds of runtime back, and that's the only thing that was changed, was just letting the edit breathe a little bit. But the score, the music, right? So Lauren and I did that together as a team as well. I composed it, but she helped me sort of put it together, and that took about 3 hours to make the music, the original music from scratch. And it's crazy that you're allowed to upload your film up until 7:29 p.m. on that Sunday, and we exported 3 drafts of the film, and our final third draft, the one that screened at Group C at the actual screening, was uploaded at 7:27 p.m.
Nice. Got it in there.
Cutting
So
it
you
close.
had 3 different versions that you submitted. All right. So how big of a difference was there between the first one you submitted and that last final moments?
The first one, because we had Derek was kind of helping us with the flow of everything. He made sure that we uploaded one without the score. He was like, just in case something goes super duper south and you cannot get it in time, we have something to submit.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
the first draft that we have, but it just doesn't have any
Music.
whatsoever. And then there were some small tweaks here and there.
In the second draft, it just second draft had music, and the third draft we had some extra sounds. Like we had Amber recording like assets, like sound effects and vocalizations and stuff at like 7:00. So like we were still adding assets up until 7 p.m. and then my computer exports pretty quick. And so the final draft had like a couple sound effects that we added, and the final draft of the score by 7:27.
Awesome. Well, that's fantastic. So now, in those 48 hours, was there a most trying and difficult hour for either of you?
I have one, but I would love to hear what the whole team's was from their perspectives. But Lauren, you tell me what yours is. I don't even know what hers
I
is.
don't even think that I have one. I
It
think
was pretty
that-
smooth?
I think, yeah, I think
That's
we
good.
were really honored to have like such a experienced team, experienced in the 48, and then Daniel and I work so well together that it just kind of all, for me, from my experience, it just went smooth. It was just fun.
Wow, lucky her.
Excellent. And how many people about are on the team?
6 total.
6.
Most of them were
total.
actors.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
3 of
Oh,
them.
6
4 of them were
including
actors.
including the cast.
Yeah.
Because you're a part of the
I
cast.
acted in
There you go.
Filmmaking.
Yeah, fantastic. So, and sorry, you said you are also the director of photography?
Yeah.
All right. So how did you balance being the DP with when you're on screen?
Great question. So that was another fortunate benefit that her and I have in terms of the experience working together. So whether we're hired to go shoot like an event or a wedding or a documentary or a summer camp or like a corporate thing, her and I both shoot and edit as a team. So we're like interchangeable. Derek always mentions how like we're like the same entity.
Yeah, we're 2 halves of the same person.
Right. Like if it, like we share the edits, we share the shooting. So when I was on, I shot everything that I wasn't in. And then in the final dialogue scene between Amber's character and I, obviously Lauren was the camera operator. So I tell her sort of in terms of like, I set up all the lights where I want them. And I set up sort of like the lens, and her and I picked a good, the settings of the camera good together as a team. But I sort of told her, hey, I feel like for the dialogue and based on like the layout of our lighting setup, let's just do quick, fast, dirty triangle coverage. And she shot the whole ending sequence of us inside the apartment. That was all her handheld on a shoulder rig, with like manual focus pull, and that was all her.
Very nice. Excellent. So any time someone does a 48, whether they are very experienced with independent or industry or 48s or not, or if they're brand new. I just did an interview with another team where their lead actor was someone who had never even done a film before, so the 48
First
gets,
timer.
yeah, the 48 gets all sorts of people going on, but one of the things we all have in common is when that 48 hours is up, we've all gotten something from this experience, and sometimes it takes us a little while to process what it is after some sleep, probably. But what has been your takeaway from this experience? Let's start with
Lauren.
Lauren.
You got a great answer for this.
I think when we were deciding whether or not to do it, it sort of, I was just excited to like stretch ourselves. Like it just felt like an opportunity to try something new, and when you do this full time, or when you have a full-time job and you just kind of do this on the side, you can kind of get stuck in a rut with certain things, and you kind of feel the same way about the same, like, oh, we have to set up a meeting with this person and do this thing. And this kind of felt like just so exciting, because it was like, you never know what you're going to get. And we're working with very close friends. And so overall, it just felt like an opportunity to express ourselves and stretch ourselves. And when we decided to do it officially, it just kind of like opened up and unlocked this, like, for me, like all these different stories I wanted to tell in general. Like it kind of gave me an outlet to express myself back into my writing again, which kind of got put back on the back burner because we've been working on other stuff that wasn't really totally our decision or whatever. So, like, we get hired to do stuff. So it just felt like an opportunity to express ourselves and stretch creatively. And that's kind of what I took away from it. And I still have all of the stories and ideas written down, so I can always go back and revisit them and sort of...
Came up with a lot of ideas for other stories and scripts to try to create Vesper, and she came up with some of the coolest ideas that we want to actually go forward and produce now.
Excellent.
They wouldn't have existed without this.
It's brought an inspiration.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. I love hearing that, because that's, the amount of inspiration I've gotten from seeing the films over the years from the 48s, and around the world has, like, blown my mind, because there was, like, the first time I went to Filmapalooza.
Awesome.
Yeah, like, the films that were there, it's like I go to film festivals. At Filmapalooza, I saw some of the best short films I'd ever seen in my life, and they were done in 48 hours. And I was like, how
just next
is
level.
it possible to do that? And I was so elated that this could be done, and getting to talk with people from all around the world who had done this same thing, and hearing, like, how did you do this, and all the different methods that people use to, like, really treat a 48 in a special way, and then how that affects the rest of the work you do. But I love hearing that this has been an inspiration for your writing and creativity, because that's so much of the whole thing, that we do, and I just think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That was a great answer. Do you think you can follow that?
Yes, I can, and I do love that, because I can't wait to shoot these movies that she came up with. So I had apprehensions personally, just myself as an individual, on doing this, and Derek had asked me for 3 years in a row to do this with him. And I didn't feel comfortable doing the 48, because the one time I experimented with it in Buffalo, New York was 2013. And I just didn't have, like, a good experience. And it made me feel like, well, I just don't, like, as an artist and a filmmaker, I live and breathe movies. Like, producing films is my whole life. I've been making films since I was a kid. I'm in my late 30s, and I will make them the rest of my life, because I love movies so much. So I kind of felt like films are my way to express myself. They're my way to process emotions and trauma and express ideas that I have that I feel are subjective and unique to me. And I didn't like the idea of my movies, which are so personal, being measured. I didn't like the competitive aspect of, like, other people having access to maybe tools and resources that I don't, and then that being, like, graded, when anybody at any level of experience, tools, or resources can make a film if they want to. And so I was like, I don't want to do that, because the competitive aspect will make it not fun for me. I had, like, this really bad attitude about it, but, Derek was really respectful about approaching me in, like, a friend way. Like, I would love to see what you can do. I would love to have you part of our team 1 year, when you're ready, when you're comfortable. Please do it with us just once. And I was like, okay. Well, this year, I just sort of listened to my intuition, listened to my spirit, and was like, okay, you're never going to be ready. There's never going to be, like, a perfect time for things that you are considering doing, but just don't pull the trigger on. And I could make up a lot of excuses as to why we didn't want to this year. I was like, no, like, Spirit's telling me we have to. We have to do it, because I don't want to, because we've been asked, and because let's do it, right? So that's my big speech as to, like, why I didn't want to do it. And I also don't manage stress very well as a filmmaker.
And you're a filmmaker. Wow.
I don't manage my
stress.
So, like, the stress for me, the biggest challenge and the most stressful aspect was post. And what I like to tell people is that without Lauren's help and without her splitting the edit with me, we didn't make it. We didn't complete the challenge. It wasn't done at 7:27. It didn't happen because I shot a little too heavy. I got a little too much coverage, and I spent too much time tweaking the color and the sound to the point where it's like, it was just without her help, we didn't complete this challenge. So for me, the most stressful part was seeing how much time you lose in post-production on an edit of a 48 and how close we cut it. And what I take away from the experience in a positive way, one thing that I'm so grateful that Derek was so, gingerly pushing me each year to do this and accept the challenge, was that as a filmmaker, I do no budget films, indie films in my backyard that we just do because we love them and we use the tools and the resources we have, and that's it. I've also worked with budgets and have, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to produce like a sci-fi project, which I'm very grateful to do. And so I've been on both sides, and I've also worked like in the television and film industry on like studio sets too. So I've seen the whole range. And what I learned doing the 48 in 2 days, producing a film, is that no matter what level you're at as a filmmaker, and no matter how much tools or resources you have, you're going to be posed with challenges that are so unique because of the time constraints that you have to come up with these creative, like ingenuity, problem solving. You learn things about yourself as a filmmaker that I don't care if you're just starting or you only work on big studio projects. If you're doing a movie in 2 days, the challenges that you'll have and the problems you need to solve and the creativity you need to get the job done quickly to the best of your ability. I learned things about myself as a filmmaker who's been doing this for 11 years that I didn't know. I've grown because of the 48 challenge, because of the unique approach to having this done in 2 days. And that's one thing I'm very grateful of, that I look at as a positive takeaway, that I can now problem solve challenges that I didn't even know that I created for myself, that I had to solve at the same time with our team of people. Like, everybody pulled together. All of our actors were working as crew. Everybody was like figuring out food and props and helping us build the sets. It was such a collaborative thing that the challenges and the way that I learned how to look at challenges because of the time constraint, I feel have leveled me up.
Fantastic. I love hearing everything y'all have said about this. This is great. Let's wrap up here real quick. What are you nominated for this Sunday?
You want this?
So we're in the top 10 best of, and then we have best use of Pittsburgh. What else do we have?
Right. So
best use of required line.
Yeah. Davo.
Cinematography, lead actress,
Original score.
and original score.
Wow, fantastic. Well, congratulations on that. Wishing you all the best for this Sunday. I will be present myself. And I hope you, gentle viewer, watching this back home or at work secretly when you're supposed to be doing something else, don't worry, we won't tell anybody as long as you get that ticket from that link in the description. Just go check out the Horror Sci-Fi Pittsburgh 48-hour film project. We're super happy that they're doing all this stuff every year. It's really great to see independent film not just alive and well, but growing within the city of Pittsburgh. So Daniel and Lauren, thank you so much for being my guests today, and I hope you have a wonderful screening.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you want to start your own podcast, why wait? Reach out to us at StudioME.me, and I hope you hear me again soon.